Okay, so if I'm delusional and I believe in this thing that's like creating all of this around me, that's hiding really well in every single thing that I'm looking at, right?
Right,
And
everything.
and it's also within me, and I have this whole entire universe within me because I've actually experienced it in meditation, like you said. Then I would rather be delusional because, right? It's like pick me because it has created such a better world for me when I have
Oh my
stepped
God, yeah,
into fully embracing, prayer, a meditation, breath work, yoga,
yeah,
speaking to people, and just kind
yeah,
of expanding myself every single day, like you said.
yeah,
And what's really, really beautiful is in the now moment, which we hear people talk about all the time, but like when it finally hits you, when you finally kind of get it and you embody it, is you can change everything from now.
yeah,
If your
yeah,
yesterday was crappy, like you said, today can be absolutely beautiful because you can
yeah,
create a new day. And
yeah.
from the energy of today that you put into today,
Mhm.
it leaves a new trajectory to the future.
Absolutely.
And all of a
Yeah.
sudden you wake up and you're like, man, I have a great life.
And then you almost feel bad that you have like such a great life and everyone around you is struggling and you're like, let me help you. Like hop on a call, let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk about like I can't tell you how many calls I've hopped on where people will see something one way and I'll be like, well, what if it's this way? And they're like, it's like light bulb goes off and their mind is just completely blown and they're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't, and I'm like, yeah, like sometimes you just have to be at a different vantage point so you can have a different view so that you can like see over everything and you can be like, oh man, you missed like right here. And like once you get that, like all these will, and it's the craziest thing. But I think when you're like on a spiritual journey, and I mean, I'm like, God talks to me. Like I can have a conversation with you and I can get a message and I can hear something and I can relay it to you in a way that you can actually understand. And I mean, that's what I've done for 15 years in a birth world where
Yeah.
I can break things down so that people can understand it. But I've done that through life and I've helped people through like the craziest of experiences all from like this very spiritual place that I wouldn't have called spiritual, but it very much was. And it's like finally recognizing that, and like recognizing its power and like, and really stepping into just like how much power and influence we have as individuals. And, like every day I just want to leave the world a better place, than like, and if that's my goal to just like love people better and to like when I screw up to say sorry and like just try to love people better. Like that's my whole role. And
Yeah.
to show the things that like I wasn't doing right and the things that I started adding that have really been doing amazing in my life. And I, I talk about like I shared things that I probably shouldn't share like on my Facebook and Instagram about, sex and marriage and children and parenthood and like all the things,
Mm.
but I want people to see like what real looks like, what raw looks like, like a fancy, good edited video, like meh,
Yeah.
like it's
Who
great,
wants to
cool,
see it? I know. I know. I,
right,
I I agree with you 100%. People want to meet you. Even
yeah,
if you're like not perfectly scripted, even if you're rambling a little bit, even if you like lose track, like they want to
yeah,
see you. And
yeah,
as you were talking, I had like two reflections. The one thing is like, so it's kind of like, we can agree upon that like God is everywhere, right? But the very fact that you're talking up to now is like the reason why you are able to bring this beautiful insight to another person is because unity divided itself into many different pieces that can then mirror back to each other. That's
yeah,
why you and I can have a conversation now, but we're in reality we're united, but
yeah,
we are talking to each other, we are helping each other resolve things, we're learning new things through this
yeah,
conversation, right?
yeah,
The
yeah,
same thing, you're talking about like allowing that flow of, the divine to come
mm,
through you and it's talking to other people. So it's everything, right? So you
yeah,
basically just become the vessel.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
more I've allowed myself to become the vessel, the more things just completely come through. And I'm just
yeah,
like, where did that come from? And who, like, did I
Yeah.
say that? Like, how? I didn't even
I
realize.
I will say things that like I just did a call with another gal from our group, and I said something that was like literally something that like her grandpa said, like a tagline on a shirt, and she was like, "Jen." No way I would have known that, but it's just I listen and I speak and I try not to hold back. And, I've had people who, like want to do business things with me and they're like, but can you be a little less God? And I'm like, no, it like runs like through me. So like I don't
No, but
like
I have
try to
another
be one
question.
way or
Can
another.
you be a little bit less God? Like, what else do you think you are? It's kind of like what I find so fascinating is I heard somewhere that I think it's a 1 in 300 trillion chances that we're actually here in this physical body, right? That we're here. Yeah.
That's
And
insane.
then the fact that you're moving your hand, right? And that you and I are talking now, like it's all source. It's like none of this would even exist if it wasn't that. So
Yeah, yeah.
nobody can be less God. They can believe that they are, but it doesn't change the fact that when
Right. I'm like, you just haven't got to the same place that I've gotten to yet. And it's so crazy to me because I was just with my aunt who is the whole, like, probably the main person in my childhood who like brought God into my life.
Mm,
And she was just sharing how she'll have been 50 years Christian this year
mhm,
and or like believer of God. And I'm like, that's so crazy because like I've almost been on the like I'm 41. Like I've almost been there that long, but just because I believed from like a very young age.
mhm,
And I always knew that there was something out there. And then when I got into my 40s and I started meditating and praying and journaling, then it was like experiencing God in a different way.
yeah.
And like once I like fully grasped just how big of a like universe and God that controls everything is and the part that all of us play as individuals and how important that is and every conversation, everything has this ripple effect. And, I just love the community that we can kind of build that has this positive ripple effect and has this like love that just pulsates through. And I'm like, I'm glad I'm a part of that,
Yeah.
and I want to take that and like I said today, like I want the love of all of our community to just like engulf people and for them to be like, what's that? And I'm
Yeah.
like, let me tell you about it, and like, let me show you what it looks like and let me share with you all the people that kind of came through with on this journey with me that like got me here, and let me help you. And
Mhm.
it's so crazy wild.
Yeah, it is. And it's kind of like I want what she has, you know? Why is she so
Yeah.
happy? Why is she so but it also it to me it also it has how should I say it? It requires a certain amount of dedication too because it's like I'm very much like you. That's like as a child I knew from a very young age that there was something else, right? And I was kind of wondering why nobody else was really looking for that something else, you know, like there's other stuff here except for the material stuff, right? But and then as you experience it, like you said, you meditate and you journal and you do all these things, and then you start to create a relationship. But it
Yeah.
takes your dedication and it takes you to
Yeah.
actually reach out your hand to in order to it's almost like you have to reach out up and God has to reach down and that's how you kind of connect,
You
right?
got to open the door, like
Gotta open the
always there,
door.
but you got to open the door. You
Yeah.
got to, and yeah, and I think exactly to your point, it's the everyday,
Yes.
it's the not just on Sundays at a church
No,
service because
no,
God's
no.
not just in a church building, he's in the trees, he's in the plants, he's in like everything,
Yes.
and it's the spending time in that and like, and exploring it and being curious about it and asking questions about it and like I want you to have questions. I want you to like grill it, and I want you to like have this experience and it's beautiful and also messy and I mean the beginning of my journey was lots of crying, lots of like just asking myself why I feel certain ways and like going through that,
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times, you know, that includes maybe a big depression or what they call the dark night of the soul, right? Where you really kind of start to
Yeah.
question everything. And then you
Yeah.
almost start from scratch again and you start to And for me, because of kind of, I don't know, religious programming in some way in society, it was really hard for me to realize that I actually could have a personal relationship with Source, right? So even
Mhm.
that felt like I'm doing something I'm not supposed to. But when you
Mhm.
start to experience it, you're just like, oh, it's like this simple, right?
Yeah.
It's just this
Mhm.
simple.
Yeah.
And it's when you start to have that experience, it's you want everyone to have that experience.
Yeah.
Because at that point in time, you can fully start to relax and trust and know
Yeah.
that it's going to be okay because you know that you're taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you
But
get
it's like
there, you know,
it's getting into it every day, you know,
it's
though. And it's and you have to trust in what you trust and what you feel,
yeah.
regardless of what other people think or say. Because oftentimes on your journey, it is not going to line up to what they think is normal. And then you eventually will find and align with the people who are like, oh, yes, I feel that on a regular basis. You know what I mean? And then that's
Yes.
where you find your community and
Yeah.
where you can be who you are and you don't have to put on a mask.
No, you
You
don't.
don't have to, the most beautiful relationships I have, I can have a bad day and they still like me, and
Yeah,
like they can forgive me when I'm a total raging, like,
totally.
and they are like, I've been there,
Yeah.
and it's,
Yeah.
it's so healing. And I think like culturally, we're just kind of in this cancel culture where everybody has to be perfect and there are no mistakes. And I'm like, dude, like we are human.
Yeah.
We're going to make mistakes over and over and over and over. And it is not that we need to flame people and cancel them out. We need to say, dang, man, I've had that day. Like you're forgiven, like,
Yeah, we've all had that day, and having those
oh,
friends where you can show up and be like, if it wasn't you, I wouldn't have been showing up today because I feel like crap, right? But
right.
because it's you, I know I can share about all these awful things
Yeah.
that are happening for an hour,
Right.
and you'll still be like, yeah, yeah, it's gonna be okay. Like, we know that we go through these moments, right? And
Yeah.
it's kind of like this cycle of purging and cleansing old trauma and then moving on and feeling better and so on and so forth because it really becomes a reframing, a rebuilding of yourself. Like it's kind of like you have to somehow figure out that these new pieces, they don't, these old pieces don't work so much. I got to take them out. And so it's just kind of like you're renovating your house while you're living in it. And that
Yeah.
becomes
Right.
messy. And
Yeah.
part of your house is still maybe lost in an old paradigm, and part of your new house is like your new temple that you built that you feel amazing about. So
Yes.
it's kind of like this, oh, okay, under construction.
Always, but it
Yeah,
never it never finishes,
that never
and
finishes.
I try to tell people that life is so much like this, and you have to find the steady that can be in here that you can always like lock into, and that's your grounding source, and that's the well that never runs dry, and when things are good and when things are bad, you can still come to this like steady grounding place. And spending time in that like feels good. Like I don't feel like we spend enough time in society doing things that like feel good and like recharge us. And like, I mean, I love I used to think it was crazy that people could sit and meditate for 6 hours. And I'm like, I don't know if I could ever sit and meditate for 6 hours, but I like really like I could do at least 30 minutes and like really enjoy it, But it's just
Absolutely.
it feels good,
It feels
and
amazing. It's
and
it's
but
your
we
time
need,
to connect with source. That's what
yeah,
you're doing.
yeah.
Huh?
And but there are so many things that we do in life that feel good. And I think that there's so much important in when we're doing that thing that feels good, that we take that time to like marinate in it and like appreciate it and just like welcome it and ask for more of it, and and then be open to receiving the more of it, because I think
Mhm.
we ask but we're really not open to receiving it, and like,
Yeah, that's an
so it's
amazing
just,
point. Yeah, it's so true. And also, to your point, it's like the only thing that we truly can kind of master is our own emotions and our own thoughts, right? So it's finding that kind of inner stillness that you were talking about. So regardless of what happens around you, if somebody says something or somebody hits your car or whatever it is,
right.
keeping that kind of inner stillness and still being in a place of peace.
Yeah. And I mean, at the moment, you probably won't have the inner
Yeah.
stillness,
Yeah.
but like finding a place where you can come back to that calm, I think is so important.
It is.
And to just like know that it really will work out, I think it's just so hard.
Yeah.
But I don't, I think finding things that make us happy and bring our life joy and doing more of them. And then while we're doing it, to really appreciate it